Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Surabhyay Namaha
Om Surabhyay Namaha.
Om Surabhyay Namaha
Om Surabhyay Namaha.
Om Surabhyay Namaha Mukam karoti vachalam pangom nangayate girim Yat kripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam Yat kripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam class. We continue reading from Canto number 4, chapter 20. And I believe we're reading text 12 today. Yes? Yes, no? Correct? 12. Yes. Bhinnasya lingasya guna pravahu dravya kriya karaka chetanat manaha dishtasu sampatsu vipatsu surayo na vikriyante mayi baddha suridaha Bhinnasya lingasya guna pravaho Dravya kriya karaka chetanat manaha Dristasu sampatsu vipatsu surayo Navikriyante mayi baddha soridaha Bhinnasya lingasya guna pravaho Dravya kriya karaka chetanat manaha Drista susampatsu vipatsu surayo Navikriyante mayi baddha soridaha Bhinnasya lingasya guna pravaho Dravya kriya karaka chetanat manaha Drissa susampatsu vipatsu surayo Navikriyante mayi baddha soridaha Bhinnasya lingasya guna pravaho Dravya kriya karaka chetanat manaha Dristasu sampatsu vipatsu surayo Navikriyante mayi baddha soridaha
Lingashya guna pravaho
Bhinasya lingasya guna prabaho
Dravya kriyakaraka chetanatmana
Dravya kriyakaraka chetanatmanaha
Asu sampatsu vipatsu surayo
Dristasu sampatsu vipatsu surayo
Navikrayante mai baddha sahruda
Navikriyante mayi bhatta soridaha. Bhinasya, different. Lingasya,
Lingashya
of the body. Guna,
guna
of the three modes of material nature. Pravaha,
pravaha
the constant change.
constant change
Dravya,
Dravya
physical elements.
physical element
Kriya,
Kriya
activities of the senses.
activities of senses
Karaka,
Karaka
demigods.
demigod
Chetana,
Chetana
and the mind. Atmanaha,
Atmanaha
consisting of dristasu,
Vishwasu
when experienced.
experience
Sampatsu,
Sampatsu
happiness.
happiness
Vipatsu,
Vipatsu
distress. Surayaha,
Surya
those who are advanced in knowledge.
those who are advanced in knowledge
Na, never.
never
Vikriyante,
Vikriyante
become disturbed.
become disturbed
Mayi,
by
unto me.
ultimate
Baddha soridaha,
Baddha
bound in friendship.
born in relationship
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki. Lord Vishnu told King Prithu, my dear king, the constant change of this material world is due to the interaction of the three modes of material nature. The five elements, the senses, the demigods who control the senses, as well as the mind, which are agitated by the spirit soul. All these taken together, comprise the body. Since the spirit soul is completely different from this combination of gross and subtle material elements, my devotee, who is connected with me in intense friendship and affection, being completely in knowledge, is never agitated by material happiness and distress. Kindly repeat after me. Lord Vishnu told King Prithu, my dear king, the constant change of this material world is due to the interaction of the three modes of material nature. The five elements, the senses, the demigods who control the senses, as well as the mind, which is agitated by the spirit soul. All these taken together comprise the body. Since the spirit soul is completely different from this combination of gross and subtle material elements, my devotee, who is connected with me in intense friendship and affection, being completely in knowledge, is never agitated by material happiness and distress. Purport. The question may be raised that if the living entity has to act as the superintendent of the activities of the bodily combination, then how can he be indifferent to the activities of the body? The answer is given here. These activities are completely different from the activities of the spirit soul of the living entity. A crude example can be given in this connection. A businessman riding in a motor car sits in the car, supervises its running, and advises the driver. He knows how much gasoline is used up, and he knows everything about the car, but still he is apart from the car and is more concerned with his business. Good example. Even while riding in the car, he thinks of his business and his office. He has no connection with the car, although he's sitting there. As the businessman is always absorbed in thoughts of his business, so the living entity can be absorbed in thoughts of rendering loving service to the Lord. Then it will be possible to remain separate from the activities of the material body. This position of neutrality can be possible only for a devotee. The word Baddha Soridaha, bound in friendship, is particularly used here. Karmis, Gyanis, and Yogis cannot be bound in devotional service. Karmis fully engage in the activities of the body. Their aim of life is to give comfort to the body only. Gyanis try to get out of entanglement by philosophical speculation, but they have no standing in the liberated position because they do not take shelter under the lotus feet of the Lord. They fall down from the exalted position of Brahman realization. Yogis also have a bodily concept of life. They think that they can achieve something spiritual by exercising the body through dharana, asana, pranayama, etc. A devotee's position is always transcendental because of his intimate relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, to remain always aloof from the actions and reactions of the body and engage in one's real occupation, namely rendering service to the Lord, can be possible only for devotees. Translation again. Lord Vishnu told King Prithu, "My dear king, the constant change of this material world is due to the interaction of the three modes of material nature, the five elements, the senses, the demigods who control the senses, as well as the mind, which is agitated by the spirit soul. All these taken together comprise the body. Since the spirit soul is completely different from this combination of gross and subtle material elements, my devotee who is connected with me in intense friendship and affection. Being completely in knowledge is never agitated by material happiness and distress. Some very interesting points are being made here. One of them in reference to demigods. We are sitting in this machine, yantra, of the material body. This yantra is being controlled by the movements or the agents called demigods. It is said that even the moving of the eyelids, every part of our body is being managed and controlled by different demigods. And this is all happening also based on the law of karma. We are experiencing happiness and distress based on our previous material activities, based on our material desires. So both the gross and mental activities that are taking place, here it is being nicely explained, is completely different from we who are sitting in this body as spirit soul. Just like this nice example of the businessman, sitting in his car. He's sitting in the car and the car is being driven, but his thought is not, he knows different things about the body, about the car rather, but his main thought, his main meditation is about his business. So therefore Prabhupada would say, our main business is Krishna consciousness. That is our main, meant to be our main thought and main meditation. And this is, of course, nicely underlined. Prabhupada explains the importance of the words referring to establishing deep friendship, relationship. So this this is the beginning, actually. This level of sambandha. The more we learn to establish a personal relationship, means the more we understand that we are actually intimately connected with Krishna, and that our primary responsibility is to understand His desires, is to understand His mission. In one purport of the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada speaks about, we could say, two levels of samadhi, two ways in which we can actually become absorbed transcendentally, so that we are less affected by the ongoing dualities of the material world, so that we are not overly disturbed or concerned about the body. We should not misunderstand, not that we neglect the body, but we don't become overly disturbed to the point of, for example, like Parikshit Maharaj. He came to know that in 7 days, due to the curse, he was going to leave his body. He didn't freak out. We all know, theoretically, that one day we will have to leave this body. And it is only someone who is actually situated in knowledge who can face this kind of reality. So this is only possible when we actually become situated in samadhi. So this word samadhi was discussed a few days ago as well. So in that one particular purport of the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada explains how, of course, those who are on the level of Paramahamsa, those who are, we could say, siddhas, those who are totally transcendental to the modes of material nature, those who are uttam adhikari, they already have their personal relationship established with Krishna. They are in a loving relationship with Krishna. They can, Prabhupada says, they can talk to Krishna. A liberated person can actually talk to Krishna, just like we can talk to one another. So, but that's that's a very obviously elevated and very rare position. And that is obviously a position or level of full samadhi. And we have so many wonderful anecdotes and stories. Stories means historical facts of various personalities in our sampradaya, in our Guru Parampara. We can think about the Goswamis of Vrindavan, we can think about personalities like Shyamananda Pandit and Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya. They were on that level of Uttamadhikari. Srila Prabhupada is on that level of Uttamadhikari. So we know how it's like, seems so far away, it seems like practically impossible, and we may become discouraged. Therefore, there's another level of samadhi we should know about. That one is real, and one day we will come to that level. And actually, until we come to that level, we cannot, until we reestablish our loving relationship with Krishna, until we become absorbed in our main business in life, then we can't go back to Krishna. We can't go back to the spiritual world. So what is this other level of samadhi? Important for us to know. So Prabhupada explains the other level where one can become fully absorbed also with Krishna is by becoming fully absorbed in his mission. By trying to understand what is, ultimately what is Krishna's mission, we can only understand Krishna's mission in the early stages by understanding and hearing from those who are absorbed in Krishna's mission. So these are our acharyas, isn't it? That's why our founder acharya, Srila Prabhupada, we all know even before going to America, he was practically speaking from the day that he received the order or the instruction from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. You're a young man, you know English. You should spread the mission of Lord Chaitanya in the English-speaking world. Prabhupada was a young man of maybe 24 years of age. But he accepted actually Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as his spiritual master. And from that moment, that was his main thought. But he was a householder. But even as a householder, he began, as we know, his Back to Godhead magazine and so many different activities. So for the vast majority of us, this is, we could say, more easily accessible. It's accessible for every single member of the Krishna consciousness movement by hearing about Srila Prabhupada's activities, by hearing his various instructions, by knowing about the various projects that he wanted established, by opening temples, by printing books, by distributing books, and by establishing communities that are the basis of what is meant to be an ideal way of living that will favor and facilitate our development of Krishna consciousness. That's what Varnasrama is all about, actually. So the more we know about the various, we could say, desires and instructions given by our acharyas, especially by, for us, our closest acharya is the founder acharya of our movement. And it's only a few years ago that Prabhupada was physically walking the planet and performing his pastime of introducing and spreading the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the more we actually endeavor to know and to, once we know and understand, the more we endeavor to fulfill those desires of Srila Prabhupada, which is the desire of the previous acharyas, of his own, Guru Maharaj, and ultimately of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna, then the more we actually become absorbed in this way, then we will be less concerned and affected or agitated by the different things that are happening to this body. We'll be like that business person in the car, just riding the car. So we're riding in the car with this body, and it's, we all have different models. We have a unique model. One may think that this model is better than the other one, but ultimately it's the same thing happening in different ways. So this point is very, when we make that effort, then Krishna notices, and then he also, by noticing our effort, he appreciates and he reciprocates. How does he reciprocate? He reciprocates by helping us understand more, by giving us dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantute. I give those living entities who are endeavoring to engage in my devotional service. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Those who are engaged in my devotional service with love and devotion, by being attentive, of how we render our devotional service, by being conscious that Krishna is a person, that he is here, especially when we have a temple, he is manifest in his Arsa Vigraha form. Of course, he's present within our very body as Paramatma, as a super soul. So therefore, this understanding or this consciousness, the more we develop it, and we can only develop that by the mercy of Krishna ultimately. So therefore, our endeavor should be how to get the mercy of Krishna, how to qualify, so to speak, to receive the attention of Krishna. And of course, one of the important ways is by understanding that Krishna's desires are especially revealed in these Vedic literatures, especially in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is reminding us again and again in so many purports what is our business and what we should do, what we how we should act in order to receive that we can say blessing or that mercy of Krishna. So these are a few things that are here in this purport. Yeah. And this is, Prabhupada makes this last point also. Prabhupada explains that this is only possible for those who are devotees. It's not possible for karmis, not possible for gyanis, not possible for yogis. And of course the vast majority of people fall in those categories. So this is a special and unique opportunity of one who actually voluntarily accepts to become a devotee. And a devotee means to become devoted, isn't it? Disciple means to become disciplined. Disciple is connected with discipline. And discipline is connected with tapasya. And tapasya is one of the 4 pillars of dharma. Satyam, daya, tapa, saucham. These are the foremost qualities and pillars of dharma upon which we can build our spiritual life. And the more we do that, then we remain what is called equiposed, not overly disturbed. I mean, the more one is elevated, one is totally undisturbed, completely undisturbed by the changes and ongoings and so many things that happen every single day to every single one of us. No one is spared in the material world. Everyone. Yeah. We're all in the same boat, so to speak, you know. So any thoughts or questions on this?
Same section comes in same section talks between the conversation between the Rahaguna and the Jada. Same discussion about it.
Oh, between the same conversation between Jada and well, I mean, ultimately it's the same subject matter. You know, how to awaken our consciousness to our original nature. And it's like, you know, the nature of the spirit soul is eternally the same, and the nature of this material body is also eternally the same. Prakriti. Prakriti is one of the 5 tattvas described in the Bhagavad Gita. And so, you know, it's the same rules, the same principles are there. It's like, it's not that later on we will find out something different about rasas, for example, that the subject matter of rasa is an eternal reality. These are the beauty of Krishna consciousness is that we are introduced to eternal concepts and principles. We are introduced to what is actual reality. Reality is what is sat, which is eternal. Sat means eternal, yeah. Eternal means not changing. Whereas everything else, like this body, is material desires, that's constantly in a flux, is constantly changing. So devotee is someone who's actually connecting with what is Sat. Therefore Lord Chaitanya instructed asat sanga tyaga. Give up everything that is asat. Become unaffected, disconnected with what is asat. And that includes all things that are material, including material relationships. So even though we are in a family situation, we are ultimately, our real level of existence is on the level of spiritual relationships. And everything else that may be happening that is not on that level is just temporary, and we should not allow ourselves to become, or just like things that are going on in the material world, which are disconnected. So many, actually vast majority of things nowadays in modern day society, because the directive or the leadership is not based on principles of dharma, so therefore it's creating all kinds of major disturbances for everyone. But a devotee, that becomes an impetus for us to actually work towards establishing the mission of our acharyas, because the mission of our acharyas are to actually reintroduce these principles of dharma, which are forgotten by the vast majority of people and by the vast majority of leaders in society. So it means that we have many things to do, many things to think about, and of course, we are very small, insignificant, but when we, like that nice example in the Bhagavad Gita, the mother sparrow lost her egg, and she told the ocean, I'm going to drink you up if you don't give back my baby eggs. And of course, a small sparrow cannot drink the ocean, but Garuda can. Yeah, right. And so like this, we by ourselves cannot do anything, practically speaking, but with the blessings and the mercy and the help, ultimately, of Krishna, he is there to actually assist. He is there to actually empower those who are surrendering unto him.
One more question.
Yes.
You know that the goal is just like a businessman now is goal that.
We know that the goal is?
To go to Krishna.
Yes, Goloka.
But sometimes we see that always we not remember that goal, that we are, as you mentioned, so much absorbed in a service, just captivated by that, and we forgot that goal there.
We know what the goal is, and you're saying that sometimes we forgot the goal, or we forget the goal because we're too absorbed in service.
Yeah. So,
No, it's not a problem. This service is not different from the goal, because the goal actually is to do service. The goal. It's not that I'm driving my car and I'm meditating on Krishna's lotus feet, and then I get into an accident. If I'm driving a car or if I'm cooking, I have to concentrate on what I'm doing. And if I'm doing that, if it's in line with devotional service for Krishna, if I'm driving a vehicle to go preaching, I'm doing the service for Krishna. So I have to be attentive in doing that service. So the goal is actually service. That's mentioned here also. Ultimately, the more we become absorbed in our service, that is the main activity that is going on in the spiritual world. to be engaged in serving Krishna, in serving anything in connection with Krishna, in serving Krishna's devotees, in serving Krishna's mission, etc. So that one is absorbed in service, he's already connected with the goal, because the goal is to actually the goal is to develop our love for Krishna. The service is the means by which we develop that love for Krishna.
Because Krishna said that Tasma Sarveshu Kalesu Ma Manusmana Yuddhachani. That was the question, that how the remember Krishna also doing services also, that the Krishna said that Ma Manusmana Yuddhachani Maya Pita Manor.
By doing service we will remember Krishna.
Yeah, but that time you not to more just
Yeah. Because the danger is sometimes to just remember Krishna and not do service.
that is the typical that you have to remember also, you have to do also. That is the.
I just heard yesterday one devotee was recalling how there was one devotee, Vishal. His name was Vishal. I knew Vishal a little bit. He was, there's only one like him. He used to be, he was very unique in that he could walk anywhere where Prabhupada was, and he would start to glorify Srila Prabhupada, you know, and everyone knew he was a little, what we call eccentric. And then, I forget the exact incident, but at one time, Prabhupada knew him. He was like that, you know. He was totally absorbed actually in wanting to serve Prabhupada and wanting to glorify Prabhupada. But one time I think maybe there was, it had rained or there was water on the floor and this and that, and he came in and he started to glorify, and then Prabhupada stopped him and said, "Can you do something practical?" The floor is wet, and if people walk on it, they're going to slip and they're going to get hurt or like that. So, so service is very important, and of course, the more we engage in practical service, that is meant to denote or explain our level of, let's say, devotion and affection to Krishna. In other words, there's knowledge, ordinary knowledge, but then there's the practical demonstration of that knowledge, or the practical application of that knowledge. Yeah. Okay, we can close here for now. Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Sri Prabhupada ki Gaura Premanande.
Bhakti Raghava Swami Maharaj ki